I don't know what the weather's like there, Chris, but it's certainly sun is shining in Cardiff, so there'll be a lot of smiling
shining in. Yeah, shining in Bridgend as well. It's luckily it's not streaming in, but yeah, it is. It's been a bit up and down today, a bit cloudy as well, but weekend looks as though it's going to be fab.
Another good weekend. Did you get out running today?
Not today. No, I've done 7 days consecutive in that 7 in 7 challenge I was doing, and 10k a day, and then did 11 miles down the Merthyr Dunes yesterday, which was lovely. So I'm having a bit of respite today, and just preparing for this really, and just making sure I'm head is in the game to do this justice.
So deserved a day off. Deserved a day off after after all that.
Legs need a rest. I mean, I had calf niggles and stuff, and so I mean, it did just need a bit of a breather, but it's nice to have a bit of a respite from it. Tomorrow I'll be eager to get out there again and get some miles in.
Excellent. Right, I can see some more people are logging in all of the time, so we'll just get going in a couple of moments time. But first of all, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us for tonight's webinar. I am here just to introduce the star of the show, who will be taking over and walking you through the webinar this evening. Just a bit to touch on the housekeeping for those of you that haven't joined us for one of these webinars or might be new to the platform. You are all on mute automatically, which has its advantages and disadvantages, but you're all on mute, so don't worry about any background noise. We shouldn't be having that interfering with proceedings tonight. These sessions, as I say, always work best with if there's some interaction and some questions coming in, and I'm sure there'll be some questions for Chris as we walk throughout the presentation and go through all things OGMORE Phoenix this evening. What I'll do is I'll keep an eye on the questions as they come in, and then we'll cover all those off at the end. And I know Chris is more than willing for people to contact him after the session. If you've got any burning questions or you're a little bit too shy to ask them this evening, I'm sure Chris will pick these up with you. So, like I say, I'm just here for introductions. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Chris Pratt, the chair of OGMORE Phoenix Runners, who's going to share the club's journey and the journey that they've gone through in recent years in creating and maintaining a fun and effective training environment for what is a fantastic community club in OGMORE Phoenix. So, Chris, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Good evening, everyone. Huge thank you to you for joining tonight, and huge thank you to Welsh Athletics for inviting me to give this talk. I know they've been engaging with members a lot over the last few weeks, a lot of webinars, and they've all been very engaging. I've been watching quite a few of them, or watching them back afterwards, and I just hope that what I deliver tonight will provide some helpful information to support those that have already gone before. Start with a disclaimer that this is the story of how we did it, and not necessarily how it should be done. This is not a blueprint for you to go off and sort of follow this to the letter. It's just to let you know how we did it, and if there's anything you can pick out of it that's useful, then that'll be great. It's an evolutionary process. We'd like to think we've applied good practice, but obviously we've made mistakes, and hopefully we've learned from those and moved through it. So the club history. The club was formed in and around Ogmore Vale and Nantymoyle in the Ogmore Valley. Ogmore Vale has a population of roughly 3,000, Nantymoyle just over 2,000, and the Ogmore Valley itself a population of about 8,000. It's got a long history of mining, which of course has long since gone, but that now has meant that those railway tracks that ran the coal down have now turned to shared use paths, which provide a great platform for us to run on. And also the river Ogmore cuts its way down the valley from the top of above Nantymoyle all the way down to the sea at Merthyr, and that has relevance to us as we move forward. The club started with, ironically, in 2012 with 12 people who had a passion for running. They met in the Berwyn Centre in Nantymoyle and formed the club. Tuesdays and Thursdays were training nights. Sessions were a little bit ad hoc. I mean, I joined the club in autumn of 2014, and I think it hadn't sort of moved on a great deal since those early days in 2012. Ad hoc sessions, you were sort of told, well, we're going to do miles or efforts, and often you sort of were greeted in the evening, well, so what do we fancy doing tonight? It was, you know, we were a very sort of a relaxed bunch, but the one thing we did have was lots of hills. And that led to a tagline that we used a lot, which is hills are friends, which led to our sort of thing that we said a lot, which was we don't look at mountains, we run them. And of course, when you get a view like that at the top of those hills, and that's at the top of Bulker Cloud looking down over Treorchy in the distance, and that picture, in fact, if you look very closely, you can see Pen y Fan in the difference. When you get views like that, who cares if you're climbing hills to get there? It's very worthwhile. This was a typical team photo from back. This is the beginning of 2015 at the fabulous Lliswerry 8 race organised by our very good friends at Lliswerry Runners, and that's on the track at Newport Stadium. 8 people there perched ready to take on the 8 flat miles around Lliswerry, and that was a typical team photo around that time. And after that, the club numbers steadily rose. And Porthcawl Park Runner was a major factor in attracting new members. That started in April 2013. I joined, as I said, in autumn 2014. And around the time we were pushing for 50 members to secure an extra London Marathon place was the motivation or the incentive that was being proffered there. Having done it in 2012, I fancied having a go again, and so I went along. And 2015, we've got that slight turn in the curve as it lifts up to build. We start getting extra members then. And my first training session was in May 2015, and after that, I never looked back. I found the club really inclusive. I love the camaraderie and support. I love the views on the runs, like we just said, you know, hills are friends again. It was a very friendly environment. AGMs were just a handful of people turning up in the Life Centre in Ogmore Vale and having a chat and sort of, yeah, I'll be captain, yeah, go on then. Very much just a group of friends getting together for some structured form of running. And that graph going up there, we can see we hit 185 members at the end of 2017. And of course, as you start to do that, you start to build in size, and you know, there are sort of struggles going on. And 2017 arrived, and we'd grown quite substantially at that point. And I decided to stand for the position of chair, and was subsequently elected. And then it wasn't long after that we faced some major internal issues. A very difficult time, but I think when you've got strong bonds and you formed a community within yourself, it takes a lot to break those down. And we battled through that together. The subsequent result of that was actually a need to dissolve the club, and we reformed under a new name. And so from the mountains following the river Ogmore that I talked about a minute ago, the phoenix rose from the ashes, and Ogmore Phoenix Runners was born. So with a new name, we were now growing, and we grew to sort of spread out over the valley walls, from the Ogmore Valley, Garw Valley, and the Llinvi Valley now. This area shown here is an area of approximately 80 square miles, and that's our catchment. It runs down all 3 valleys, and then we've got that focal point at the bottom of the 3 valleys where a lot of our training sessions meet, because that's convenient for us. We've gone right through that, through Bridgend, and all the while tracing that path of the Ogmore River going down towards the sea. And in fact, this area doesn't in fact include it all. There's probably members who, if they ever watch this, are gonna say, well, hang on a minute, I live slightly outside that. We've got members over sort of towards Llantrys and even Llantwit Major as well. So the span is quite large. And if we then look at the number of members coming up to current day, we can see that progression just continued. A linear increase from that point, from 2015 really, all the way up. And of course, as you do that, it's necessary to evolve. You've got to understand what that increase means, and you've got to evolve the sort of the process that you go through, the training environment, everything. You've got to increase, and you've also got to understand that you're getting an increase in abilities as well. There's a wide spread of abilities that are coming to your door and are taking part in club activities, and you've got to support that. And so finishing the sort of, or moving on with the club history, just that's a more recent team photo, and that's a very proud thing to see, is that many OGMORE Phoenix stood there in their kit proudly in front of Bringaroo House at a Bridgend County running league event in 2018 on a very warm summer's evening, but a fantastic team turnout, and that is characteristic now of what we get at events. So moving on, just to look at some stats of our sort of event participation. We have an amazing stats team who monitor results of every race, and in fact, sometimes you get a result posted on our pages that you don't even realise that anybody knew that you were doing. They just hunt you down and find the results and keep those records. And we have a wonderful club stato who's kept the results ever since 2012, and he records everything we've ever done. And we always acknowledging milestones in events and things like that. And so we can always look back. So if we look at end of 2019, there we had 350 members, and in total we did 5,668 events, 3,005 of which were park runs. We did 387 5K races, 600 10K races, 423 half marathons. Now that's great. That's more than one per member average, you know. 129 marathons and 45 ultra marathons. And event participation is fantastic right across the club. People not afraid to get involved and take part in events, and that is absolutely fantastic. And as you can imagine, as we're sat here going through a lockdown period, it's hit us quite hard, because of course these events are not on, and so that's had a major impact on us, but we'll come to that later on. One thing we are very, very proud of is that the hard work we did to come back from where we were and build the platform that we now have to nurture our athletes. We were awarded Welsh Athletics Development Club of the Year, and that is something that we are incredibly proud of, and will hold dear for many years to come. So that's a sort of potted history of where we've been. A little bit's missing, but gives you an idea of how we've led up to being the club that we are, from 12 members to 370. So now it's time to look at the training environment, and I'm a firm believer that the training environment is actually the whole package. It's everything that you do. It's not just training nights. It's everything that you provide. And it's so much more than the sport. If anybody attended any of the Sven Elkjær webinars at the start of lockdown, or in fact went to the club conferences, you will have heard Sven speak and discuss this concept of there being a prosumer, a consumer, and a non-sumer. So the idea is that a prosumer is someone who's self-motivated and will train and run regardless of whether you encourage them to do it. So they want to stay fit and they want to win. They want good coaches and instructors who can help them achieve their ambitions to perform better, run faster and longer, or win competitions, self-motivated. A consumer would like to stay fit somehow, but it's not the only thing that matters. They need to have fun and be motivated, and the social aspects of doing sport and physical activity are very important to them. But they don't want coaches, they want activators. People can nudge them and give them that little press to move them on. And of course, we're looking at these now, we have both of these, and then we have the all-important non-sumer. So someone who's, unless constantly encouraged and motivated, won't continue to stay active. The non-sumer often has an intense dislike of taking part in any sport or physical activity, and the last place they want to go is a traditional sports club or leisure centre. They want understanding and patient support. They prefer to be active in their own environment, on their doorstep, supported and motivated by people like them or who they know and trust. The last thing they want is a coach. A lot of our members are non-sumers. So we have to, our whole package, our training environment is not just getting them to training and training them. It's providing a system that actually nurtures them as a person, moves them on that athlete sort of centered approach of looking at them as a person as a whole and supporting them and nurturing through their journey to wherever they want to be or wherever they want it to take them to. So moving on to the coaching. Looking at the structure that we have now, we have 4 coaches in running fitness. It's not always been like that. I mean, when we started back in 2012, we didn't have any coaches or leaders. We trained 1 coach, then we trained 2 more. We lost 1, then we lost another, then we trained up another 1, and now we've gained 1 of the original ones back again. So we're back with 4, which is it's great to have 4 fully qualified coaches in the team and able to provide proper structured training. But we also have a fantastic team of 34 leaders in running fitness. And one thing that we always find with leaders is it's difficult to find commitment amongst the leaders. To guarantee availability all the time is very difficult. And we have this large catchment area. When that catchment is so big and our sessions are distributed over such a wide area, it's difficult to guarantee that they'll be able to get to wherever they need to be. So we've always strived to keep that number of leaders up so that we'll have that availability as and when we need it. So in terms of structuring, the coaches and leaders have always sort of met periodically, and we were getting to a point where regular meeting every 3 months, and that involves all coaches and leaders. We get all the leaders involved, and they're able to contribute to the discussion and form part of the decision making in how training is going to go. They get feedback directly from the people they're leading and understand how those sessions are working and what the concerns are, and as a team they all work together and gel to produce the outcome. We also, for the last couple of years, we've engaged the members in a survey. So we've gone right across our large membership and asked for them to give us the direction that they think that training should be going. I mean, after all, we're a members club, and so we're here in a position to act in their interests. Their wishes and their sort of, the way they want it to go is paramount. And it's not necessarily, you're not necessarily going to be able to satisfy everyone, but you can get a consensus. And also you might find that there's a small group that have a certain idea that you can take forward and shape to actually, that's something new. Let's go with that, because if it's going to satisfy them, then it's going to keep them happy, and that might then draw others in, and you might build from that and learn a lot from it. So it's worth engaging with the members and keeping them part of the process. In 2017, we appointed a coaching coordinator, and Emma did a fantastic job. And she's, it's a huge responsibility when you've got 4 coaches, 34 leaders, and you've got all these different sessions going on. And she did an absolutely wonderful job of setting various things up and putting things in place. But it's become clear that it's a lot of work for one person. And so, in fact, as we move into the future, we're looking at breaking that down into, teams, working group type structure. So we're going to have individual teams managing each night or type of session as autonomous entities. I'll talk in a minute about what sessions we provide, but 0 to Hero and Hero to Legend we have a team for. We have a Tuesday training team, a Wednesday training team, and a Thursday training team. And we ask the leaders to commit to at least one of those times, depending on their typical availability on a night. And then they work as a team to provide the leading and coaching for those particular areas. Moving on, Emma set up a training calendar on Google, which we've used now for quite some time. And it's wonderful. You can have it on your phone. You can have the Google Calendar on your phone, and you can see what sessions are. There you can see an example where it's, that is actually on our website. That's going to it viewed on our website. We have it installed on our website. So you can go in there, click on a session. It tells you where it is. It tells you when it is. It gives you a description of what the session is. So you know in advance what that session is going to be. And we plan those in advance and get those up there on the calendar. We have a members calendar, so members can go in and see that information. And we also have a coaches and leaders calendar that mirrors that information, but also allows those who led a session to go in and add detail afterwards. For example, which leaders turned up, who was present, how many attended the session. So we can actually log that then and look at it subsequently to assess the session. So looking at our current session plan, this is what our week looks like, or did before lockdown, and will again. We have a session called Touring Tuesday. I'll talk about that in a minute. Obviously on a Tuesday at 6:30. Wednesday nights alternate weekly between a normal session at 6:30 or a track session at 7:30. I'll talk about those again in a minute. Zero to Hero or Hero to Legend is also on a Wednesday at 6:30. We have what we call Phoenix Flyers at 7:30 on a Wednesday night. On a Thursday, we're in OGMORE Vale because it really was important for us to maintain a connection with where we were formed, that's our spiritual home, that's where we came from, and it was important to retain that connection. Obviously our catchment has grown and sort of the general sort of membership has flowed down the valley, but it's still important to retain that connection with where we come from, and so we still have a session on a Thursday in OGMORE Vale. We have a Sunday trail session at 8:30 in the morning, and we also have another Zero to Hero or Hero to Legend session at 10 on a Sunday. So talking about each of those sessions in turn, as I've said many times, we have a huge catchment, and many of the prescribed training sessions are away from where people live, so they have to travel a fair way to get to them. So we thought, well, yeah, let's turn that around. Let's tour. Let's move around, and so we take sessions to them. This allows members to gain a connection where other members live. Oh, you know, it's nice up here. And I mean, you know, any of the valleys are absolutely fantastic running routes and fantastic views. And so it's worth going up there to explore those. But not only that, but we also take sessions to completely new locations that we don't normally train at with any of our stock sessions. And it adds a bit of fun to it. It adds a bit of difference. You want to try and engage members to, oh, hang on a minute, we're going to train down there tonight, and that's, you know, something that you instill in them. That's, oh, you know, this sounds good, I'm going to have a go with that. And then often we add an attraction on it, and there we've got a nice picture of a group huddled up, looking rather chilly. I think it was last November, probably on a sunny day, but then the second picture gives way to what actually was the incentive, and that was chips on Porthcawl seafront. So we might add, you know, it might be a run for chips, you know, and so you go on Porthcawl, you do a run, and you get your chips afterwards. It gives that extra element to it that drags people along, and then selfies are shared of those, and people say, oh, I'd like a bit of that, and they come along next time. It gives variety. Another thing that it also does is it allows us to go to locations that are appealing for sessions that perhaps aren't quite so appealing. So I'm not a personal favourite of mine to do strength and conditioning. And I think a lot of people probably shy away from it, and so it's not the most fun session in the world. Some people love it, some people don't. It's probably a Marmite situation. But for those who hate it, it might be fantastic if you do it on the beach. Go down, you can get in barefoot, you can do the strength exercise and stuff, you can shuttle run down to the sea, and I mean, look at those epic views there with the sun coming down over the sand. And that actually was my birthday 2 years ago in 2018 on a nice summer's sunny evening where it was just a great setting, and so you don't mind having worked hard when you've got a session like that. So mix it up a bit, add a bit of variety into it when it's something that they perhaps don't want to do. It makes it great fun. So moving on to Zero to Hero. We know this internally as Z2H. We like to abbreviate things, so that's our abbreviation for it. And essentially, it's a couch to 5K. It's based on the NHS programme. We come from an area that within our area we have a huge range of different social backgrounds and a wide range of abilities, and many complete non-runners, and this is an idea to get them out onto the street, get them active, and get them doing something that might change their lives. It started in March 2015, and I believe this is one of the earlier sessions in this photograph. it starts at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning. That was an accessible time. It felt it wasn't too early. People would be able to get there, and we based it in Brinkethin, which is at the bottom of the 3 valleys that we serve, and also sits equidistant between there and Bridgend. And so it's a great gathering point, central gathering point for people from all over the catchment. We added Wednesday evening to give an extra session to Zero to Hero, and we started it at a slightly later time to the Thursday, Tuesday, and Thursday sessions, and suddenly it became incredibly popular, and we were seeing non-Zero to Heroes turning up. Wednesday quickly became one of the most popular nights, and so it actually got fed onto the training program as an additional night, just out of sheer numbers turning up, and so that got added to our normal sessions. But back to Zero to Hero, I mean, we utilised the cycle track from there, one of the old railway lines that comes down the OGMORE Valley. It's safe, it's away from traffic, it's a really pleasant setting. I mean, you trot up there next to the river's gushing away, and on a nice Sunday morning, even a fresh, crisp Sunday morning, it's a beautiful setting. And it's great because there's a gate, and that sounds really strange. It's great because there's a gate, but in fact, the gate gives focus to a lot of our runners who take on the Zero to Hero, because it's one of those places where they have in their mind, I'm going to make it to the gate this week. It's this sort of chasing point. It's out and back for a certain period of time, but I'm going to make sure that I get there, and it's become, I'm going to make it to the gate sort of a thing on Zero to Hero sessions. So like I said, they're out and back sessions. So we start and end at the same time. We always throw in a large number of leaders on hand for the first few sessions of an intake, because we always get big numbers these days for our Zero to Hero. And so, but not only leaders as well, but what we do is we also use volunteer experienced runners to help and support during those first few weeks. And if any of you watched Dan Nash's webinar at the beginning of the on endurance running at the beginning of the series, you will have seen that, you know, he said that most sessions should be run at an easy pace, you know, and that always strikes with me, because I go along to these Zero to Hero sessions occasionally, and when I go along, it slows the pace down for me, and it's a great opportunity to make sure that I run at a slower pace. And when we sell that to experienced runners, that's a great way to say, come along, do that. It's going to naturally bring you back from what you tend to go out at, and so actually helps them in as much, and not only that, but also getting a lot from helping other people, but it also helps them with their own running. The course runs on a 12-week cycle, so or it did to start with, and there are 4 cycles a year. It's 9 weeks to graduation following the plan, but then that allows a little bit afterwards for them. If they haven't quite reached there, they can continue, and they can graduate then on subsequent one of the 3 weeks. So Zero to Hero has been a huge factor in our growth, and it's more than just getting them running as well. For many of those that came to the sessions or have come to the sessions, it's given them a sense of purpose. They never ran before, so they never saw themselves as runners. This is something new. For some, it was an escape. It was a way to get away from the hubbub of normal life and just escape and find something new. And we all know the benefits that running has to mental health only too well. And so, you know, it's given them something else to do, and it's also created new dreams they never knew they had. And when you see that magic spark in their eye when they realise that they're capable of this, I never even dreamed of this. This is amazing. I can do this. Then you start to see and then to wonder what else is achievable. Absolutely incredible, and that is fulfilling for us. It's fulfilling for the leaders, and it's fulfilling for them because they're making difference to their lives. And some of our Zero to Heroes have gone on to amazing big things. I mean, couched at ultra marathon is a term that is not uncommon amongst the club. And it's sometimes the most unlikely people. You get some people coming along to Zero to Hero, and you never judge, but you'll think that they themselves believe it's unlikely I'm ever going to do anything like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, and they'll fully agree with you. But they do amazing things, and it's absolutely incredible and inspiring, and actually very moving. And we often see partners coming along as well, where somebody's come along and said, hey, it's really good this, and if you can't beat them, join them, and then they get the bug and they also go on to do amazing things, which is also absolutely incredible. The graduation for our Zero to Hero traditionally takes place at Parkrun, and this is a lovely small group who graduated on one day. They're looking very proud as punch, and one of our wonderful leaders there, Louise, at the front, took it upon herself to handwrite cards for people, and she acquires medals for them, for those who complete the course. The club hand out a free buff. Most of them by that time have had free kit, not free kit, but have had already bought kit from the club anyway, because they've become members and become part of the community and the family, because of that sort of inclusion and feeling they get. It's absolutely wonderful, a real uplifting section of the club. But so now we move on to Hero to Legend, because this started in 2017. And we originally called it Intermediates, but we wanted a bit more exciting name, and of course the Zero to Hero lent itself to then coming up with Hero to Legend. It's the next step. It's that bridging gap. The sessions were exactly that. They're intended to bridge the gap between Zero to Hero and regular sessions. Couch to 5K leaves you at a point where you can complete a 5K, and our sessions are typically an hour. And members were coming out of Zero to Hero and saying, well, I'm not quite ready for that. And so we offered this in-between phase to develop them to the point where they can do an hour and they feel comfortable that, and they're strong to do an hour. And we through technique and form and all the rest of it, they can learn to sort of to be ready for that next stage. In 2017 and 2018, we ran that in parallel with Zero to Hero. So we had 4 intakes per year of Zero to Hero, and alongside each one, we moved them on to the next stage, and Hero to Legend ran in parallel with it. And that was very leader intensive, and we were less able to provide sufficient focus. So we've moved to 2 intakes of Zero to Hero per year now, 6 months apart, and Hero to Legend follows on with the same leader team. So they go through Zero to Hero, then they go through Hero to Legend, then they're ready to join regular sessions. But that has perhaps not worked out quite as well as we thought, because that familiarity, they became so familiar with their leaders. I liken it to leaving to go to big school. It's like that sort of, they built a relationship with those leaders, and they wanted to stay with them. They enjoyed it. That was their session. They loved that. And so we are in 2020. We were trialing the going through Zero to Hero and then changing to a different set of leaders to do the Hero to Legend. But of course, we got to 1 week before Zero to Hero was ready to graduate, and lo and behold, we went into lockdown. So that has still to be investigated. So another success story, the Hero to Legend, in bringing our members on to the next stage. So OGMORE Thursday. So OGMORE Thursday, back up in our spiritual home, hilly. And so a lot of the routes, there aren't many flat routes, and even the flat routes, when we do flat efforts, we end up running up Coronation Street. And if you've ever been up Elmore Vale, Coronation Street is like a house end. It's perfect for efforts. The steep valley walls, and I mean that picture there in front of you is on the right is Hill Street, and that's one of our figure 8 loops. You run down Hill Street, along up Cardiff Street, along back down Hill Street, along up Cuthbert Street, and back to the start for recovery. And with your run over from the Life Centre where we meet, it's a sort of 3-mile session, and in fact 800 feet of elevation by the time we've done many loops of that route. But with a view like that, when you're running down that road over the valley wall, it's just fantastic. It just takes your breath away, and that is an incentive to go up there and be part of that. It's a tough session, but it's a tough session with a view. The one on the left there, Lewistown Beast. We have a couple of sessions that are named Beast. And that session takes you up to a steep climb up to a mast, and then you come down through the bracken on the valley wall with the drop down into the village below, with a view up the valley, up to the bulk at the top. And I mean, we use that on our website. That is just an amazing view to have on a training session, and you forget about the running. You're just there with a group of friends enjoying the view. And the one at the bottom there is Bulk of Cloud again on a particularly misty evening. Just absolutely wonderful. But OGMORE Thursday has something very special. And of course, there's always cake. And so that's one thing that I'm sure incentivizes some to come along, but it's a great thing as well that we have a bit of fun with that as well. So looking at some of those sessions in OGMORE Thursday, those are two particularly tough routes that we have. The top one is the Beast, and is 1,400 feet of climbing over 7 miles, and that second climb is 600-foot climb in a mile. And the challenge is, can you conquer the beast? Can you actually run the whole way up that beast? And it's a tough old route. The bottom one there at the bulk, we have an 8-mile option. We also have a 4-mile option. You can drive up halfway and then run up the top and run back down, and we often do both on the same night, but both great routes with great views and loved by all. So moving on to trail. Our first session of trail was in 2015. We had a leader who was interested in trail. He loved it and said, does anybody fancy having a go? And so we did. It was early Sunday morning due to availability of that leader. It was possible also as after 8:30 to get back to Zero to Hero sessions as well. So we could have leaders when they were limited. We could have leaders who did one and went to the other. We always start the series with a beginner session, which is short in distance. We typically do it in Bringaroo Park. There's a mixture of every terrain in there, and there's even an opportunity to get lost, which does happen on occasion. We run through good practice for trail running, you know, balancing on the edge of a curb and looking down and bounding and high knees through long grass. And it's great to do all those things in preparation for actually going out on the trails. It's become increasingly popular, the trail sessions. We typically run those beginner sessions at the end of a Zero to Hero as well, and that allows our Zero to Heroes to see if that's something that they want to do. Do they want to go on and do trail? That might be something that incites them in another, you know, sort of venture. All inclusive runs. We regularly regroup. There's nothing about going off like a rocket on these. We just regroup again and have a natter and off we go. And they're just fantastic sessions in stunning locations. We created a dedicated Facebook group for this quite some time ago. For those with trail interest, we allow affiliated runners from other clubs to join that. And we have about 300 members in that group now, and it's very successful and a very enjoyable session. Track sessions. Originally, these were monthly on the Bridge End track. We surveyed the members and found that they would like to do it fortnightly, so we managed to secure that. The content suits all because it's confined on the track, and everybody's ability is catered for. We did find that there's some who have a historic hatred of track. They were, you know, as kids they were pushed on the track, and they sort of had this, oh, I'll never want to do that again. I just want to run for fun or whatever, and that's fine. But they are coached sessions, so you get the benefit of a coach being there, and it's easy to integrate Zero to Hero and Hero to Legend into that, to come along and sort of break that myth about these things being for fast runners, that they, in fact, they're inclusive to all. So moving on, Phoenix Flyers. So our club fundamental ethos has always been all inclusive. Everybody's welcome, all abilities. But the focus has always tended to be on the beginners and the mid-pack runners, because we didn't really have many front pack runners. But since we've grown and since we're seen at races in numbers and our support and that inclusivity and all the rest of it, in fact, you know, going back to what we said earlier about prosumers and consumers and non-sumers, prosumers do, there are some there who, yes, they're self-motivated and all the rest of it, but they are drawn in by that. They do like that, and they like that sort of attraction of that support and camaraderie and all the rest of it. And we've attracted some performance runners to the point where it was necessary to provide specific sessions. So as a result, a performance training group was set up. We had one coach who was keen to dedicate himself to it. A criteria was introduced with a minimum 5K time for male and female within the last 6 months to guarantee you entry into that group. We were conscious of being all inclusive and supporting all abilities, but being sort of supported more of that bottom to mid end of the club. And so we sort of communicated to all members it wasn't a club change of ethos. We were just accommodating all abilities like we've always said we would. It's proved to be very successful, and our performance runners now are sticking with us and doing great things in things like the Bridge End County Running League. OGMORE Phoenix Walkers. So I mean, we've got members who frequently are struggling with injury. or lacking motivation to run. And so what we do is we provide the facility for if members are injured or have expressed an interest that they want to attend training but don't want to run, then we make every effort to provide a walking group with a leader if we can, set off at the same time as the running group and returns at the same time. It allows them to retain a sense of connection with the club. They're part of a training routine, even if they're not going hell for leather and going out there and training with the rest of the pack. And in fact, some of these guys who ran this session have gone for specific organised walks, for example, at Pen of Anne and such like. So, you know, not a hugely sort of massive part of the club, but there, should it be required by anybody who needs it. Plod and a pint. So this is an unofficial session. It's a social session with no guaranteed leader. Takes place on a Friday evening, starts and ends at a pub. And it was started by the members. The members just said, anybody fancy a drink tonight? And it started to become known as Plod and a Pint. And now Plod and a Pint is a thing. It's been embraced by many, and it's advertised on the club pages by those who organise it as such, but it's not an officially led session. It's just a fun session. It's great to see members doing that, using initiative and going off and doing that. So, monitoring, moving on. That there, I mean, you won't be able to read that, but that is in fact a spreadsheet of our whole year of training. We keep comprehensive data, and we have done since 2018 for all our training sessions. With each date of training, the attendance of each specific session, the details of the location, so that we can always tie that back to peaks and troughs. We keep weekly totals. We monitor Kerf and Lerf attendance through 2019. We've done that. So that, you know, we can honour those who are attending regularly. We can see which sessions, pardon me, are covered well. We can see where there's not quite so much cover, if there's regulation, you know, if that regularly happens. And so we're able to monitor it. It also tells us when it clashes with big races, so we understand the dips in training attendance. So there's our weekly totals for 2019, and you can see that obvious two peaks of the 2 0 to hero intakes, and then the gradual fall away. Obviously, the first half of the year, we're quite happy with this sort of spring and summer in there, and then it shoots up again and comes down towards the winter, which you'd expect. Moving on to the individual sessions, you can see the 0 to hero spiking when it's joined, and those spikes aren't just sheer numbers joining us as new runners and then falling away. That is all our leaders counted in that, and our volunteer runners joining in with that, and then slowly ebbing away as they're not needed anymore. And so that results in those figures. And there you can see on the touring Tuesdays, you can see the spikes in there, and I can probably be pretty sure that those spikes relate to a run with chips or something like that. So, you know, there is how we analyze the sessions. Moving on quickly to looking at our training monthly totals, which we keep an eye on as well, and we like to think that we're doing things right. So we're looking at a 29.9 average attendance on a night in 2019. It was an increase of 32% over 22.7 in 2018. But our increase in membership was only 29. So we've had a slightly increased attendance at training, which we're very happy with. And considering they're spread out widely, that's great to see so many members coming along to be a part, and that's slowly increasing. This year was looking to be a great one, but there's our red section of lockdown, and hoping to start filling some figures soon as we return. And so a final graph that shows year on year, 2018, 19 and 20, the attendance of weekly attendance of the sessions against each other, and the slightly later start we had in 2020, are more or less following 2019, but then of course an unknown after that. But 2019 towering over 2018 in terms of attendance. Very, very pleased with those figures. Races. Now races, I mean, we're talking here about a training environment, but like I said at the beginning, everything is part of the training environment as far as I'm concerned. And so our fundamental ethos at races is to wait for everyone to finish. And while we're doing that particular example, the Vale Coastal Challenge, 34-mile ultra combined with an 18.5-mile trail run, there is a huge section of the club. That's families, friends, runners who've already finished, cheering in Di there, who's the last one to finish. and cheering him in with rapturous applause, staying to the bitter end, having a bite to eat, having a drink, being there. That is part of the training program. That is providing that support for every runner that makes them want to come back, that makes them come along. If there's somebody who's prospectively looking to join the club, a family friend or whatever is there and saying, look at this, I want to be a part of this. I want to have some of that. I love it. That is great. And you're training the mind to be part of that process. And actually, it's non-consumers, consumers, again, sort of, you're appealing to a different aspect of it. All major events, races that we do, where there's a lot of people taking part, we accompany them with a Facebook update thread. So this one example is the head of just the Liverpool tracking post for the Liverpool series, which a tour went to do. But we do that also for the London Marathon is a big one, and Snowdonia Marathon we do that for. But any major events where there's a lot taking part, we keep it updated with how people are doing. People who are there supporting put photos on it. We then sort of, those who aren't there can send messages of well wishes. And of course, that's not going to be seen by the runner. But what it does do is when they get back, they look back at that post and they know that they were being supported at that time throughout that. And that is a real motivation for everybody else. And everybody says, I'm going to enter that race next year because I want to be part of that equation. And that, again, part of the training environment. Snowdonia Marathon, it wouldn't be our club if it wasn't a mention of this. We go year on year, and the last 2 years we've taken over 40 members to run it. And we've also taken about 30 supporters on top of that to actually, maybe even more. We take over a hotel, but families there and all the rest of it, again, part of the training environment. You're providing that sort of experience. We come back, we make a video of it, we sell it. We actually make that something that people aspire to, that they want to do. We've got first-time marathon runners stood in that pile who are, I'm going to do that. And they train appropriately throughout the year with everyone else. They share everyone else's journey throughout the year to get to that race. And it's fantastic experience. And of course, it wouldn't be Snowdonia Marathon without mentioning as well Phoenix Corner. So our supporters, they wave us off at the start line. They then walk down to the finish and they set up their camp there on that final bend into the final straight that everybody who's done the race knows. Come down that final hill in Llanberis and turn that corner, and they're there and they stay there for 6.5 hours until our last finisher. In fact, our last finisher was the last finisher of the race last year, and we stayed there to the bitter end. Even while the guys are taking the barriers down, we're there. They let us leave the barriers there with those flags up just to cheer in our final runners. And that is part of the training environment. That is providing that nurturing environment for them to actually want to do that, to want to take part in these races, to want to train, because they've got it in their mind all the time they're training. That is the experience I want. Very proud to say we were second in the Bridgend County Running League the last 2 years running. 6 clubs, a summer league based on performance and participation, top 15 score, but also every runner counts. Every runner who finishes the race gets -1 and the lowest score counts. We have won races by less than a handful of points, which means that 3 people crossing that line, even if they were the last 3 in the race, actually were instrumental in that result. And that is great morale boost for our Zero to Heroes. And again, part of the training program for them moving on to understand that their contribution is significant. We celebrate milestones. So I don't know where we got this idea from. I mean, who celebrates milestones with T-shirts? But a free T-shirt for multiples of 50 events, not including parkrun, because you get milestones for that anyway. But every 50 events that you do for the club, you get a different coloured T-shirt. This is free. This is an initiative that we started to try and encourage participation. And my golly, has it worked? My golly, sorry, has it worked? It's just been a wonderful thing. And so 50 events is blue, and we've got 100, 150, 200, and somebody has just picked up their 250. One of our founding members has just picked up his 250 T-shirt, 250 events representing the club. Absolutely fantastic. Social media, massive part of what we do. We have a big social media focus. We're a social running group as much as we are anything else. Members share their training sessions. We're widely spread, and don't forget, we don't have members coming to all our training sessions. But if they go off and do their own, we encourage them to share that on our social media platforms. So you know, selfie there with the little group they went out with, share it. Everybody else says, well done, guys, that's great. That is all part of the training program. They've gone off and done training. We should be including those in the training figures. Coaches and leaders share photos from groups that they took. It's a positive reinforcement of that training session, so that they can say, look, guys, this is what you're missing. This is what you want to be a part of. So selfies with the smiles encouraged. We have multiple Facebook groups for many different topics for people to get involved with, but we have two main ones that they share these on. We also have very active Instagram and Twitter accounts that are managed by two wonderful managers, Jane and Alexis, who do a fantastic job. And these are just two examples of initiatives that we've had on social media. Featured Phoenix, where we asked them to share photos and to tell us a little bit about themselves, and then we share it on Instagram and we say, look, you know, these are our wonderful members. This is what they're doing. Also, the key workers during lockdown, another thing that we celebrated through social media initiatives, and that's important to engage with people who are sat trawling through their phone. And do I want to go out? Oh, look at that! Oh, look what he's been doing. You know what? I'm going to get my shoes on and go. I'm going to do it. Just those little things that you do. Social events. We are big on social events. We have a fantastic social committee that work all year round to deliver unique themed events. Our bonds are very strong, and socializing is part of that. Making the experience, again, consumers, actually providing that experience for them that sort of brings them into the fold and makes them want to run as well. Our Christmas parties, you know, very proud of our Christmas parties. You can see the unique tree topper. We have a golden ticket initiative where 5 golden tickets were hidden in the envelopes, and 5 VIPs on the night were treated like lords and ladies. We had custom baubles that were 3D printed by one of our members over a period of 6 months in the background. These unique baubles that people took home with them, that you're never going to get one of those again, because we're not going to do them again. We did them that year. 125 people attended the Christmas party. We projected the logo on the wall with the bauble in it, and absolutely a fantastic way of engaging with people in a social way, going that extra mile. This is this year's Christmas party. Yes, that is me in a mask outfit in the top right-hand corner. We have waist-high OPR letters. We had a light box handmade, again, by the same guy who made the baubles, our Saint Nick, as we call him. And in the top left-hand corner, it was a masquerade ball. We have there a selfie frame that was handmade. Everything handmade. Don't spend as little money as possible. Handmade these things. Keep it as cheap as possible. Make it accessible. Make it so as many as possible can come. We had 125 again at the Christmas party. A massive turnout, and a really great night, and just part of the training environment. Phoenix 5. A treasure hunt. We like to theme things, and there you can tell what that is. You know, the Phoenix 5. We had 10 cars, 5 in a car, all went round the local area doing challenges and doing puzzles and things like that to find their way back to a summer barbecue in the evening where we had a huge attendance. Another thing, just to engage the members and just theme it and just make it a bit more exciting. So for support, we also offer we've been looking at providing things for our members just to support them in areas that isn't just the running. So we've got a mental health matters group where we discuss how we can support people. We've had a support team put together, particularly during lockdown, who are people that people can reach out to. Members can reach out to them and just for a chat, just to seek reassurance, and just little things like that are very helpful. We've got a group called Phoenix Lights, and it's not a weight loss group, but what it is, we know some of our runners are taking this journey because they want to lose some weight, and if that's the case, then probably an appropriate environment for them to understand the right way to do that through exercise and balanced diet, and they share recipes and share their journeys on there as well, away from the hub of the normal sort of discussions. And that's something else that we also do. So into lockdown now, I mean, all those events taken away, what are we going to do? So we started, one of our members came forward, Liz, and said, why don't we do a virtual sunflower really? I've got a really good idea. Sunflowers are a symbol of hope, reaching for the light, growing up to reach the light out of the darkness. And that's how it felt to start with when we went into lockdown. So what happens is a virtual sunflower is left on a photo at location, shared on our pages, and this is where I've left it. A runner runs there to collect it. They then share their journey to another place within our locale, and they leave it there for somebody else to go and fetch and move to somewhere else. No contact between people, just a message of hope moving around our catchment area. That has moved 84 times since the start of lockdown, and we've covered over 600 miles in activities in moving it around. Incredibly inspiring, and the stories are wonderful. Just to see them on a day and say, oh, it's fantastic, you know, just the story that somebody's led a little path in their history or something, just to get to where they ended up leaving the sunflower, and it's just been wonderful. That we've also set a series of virtual challenges. The Phoenix who went up a hill and created a mountain elevation challenge. We had over a weekend 126 activities over 72,000 feet, 2.5 times the height of Everest. We had on the London 2.6 challenge to save the UK's charities. We decided to just mix it up a bit, and we did the London 26 calorie challenge. Roughly 2,626 calories burnt, completing a marathon, roughly. And so we saw, well, you know, people who are shielding and all the rest of it, they can do activities, and so they can walk up down the steps and all the rest of it, and they can count steps and they can count calories. So everybody was involved in that over a weekend, and we burned 83,300 calories collectively between us, which is over 31 marathons, which is absolutely wonderful. Phoenix Travel, we all pretended to be travel agents, and we went out into the local area, and we took photos and we made videos of the local area just to share with the other members. It was fun. It was a great laugh. Victory in Europe, we celebrated the 3-day weekend. We tried to cover the distance from OGMORE Vale to Reims in France, and then Berlin, where the peace treaties were signed. We did 228 activities, and we completed 1,345 miles, which is just 5 miles short of the actual distance, but we were very proud to have made a valiant effort to get there. And again, a themed sort of look to that. Phoenix Streets, spelling out OGMORE Phoenix runners in the first letter of street names, which obviously is difficult to get an X, and so it could be anywhere in it, but it was good. That was good fun as well. And again, a new logo to match. Phoenix runners do miles for mind. 89 of us pledged to run a certain distance during May, and in fact it was a valiant effort by everyone, a fantastic challenge. We had a separate group set up for it, and we tackled that valiantly. Brilliant effort by everyone. And then we've just finished in July. We've got 96 members have completed the run around the world with Run Things, and we've got over 8,000 miles in a month. And as a team, we're currently sitting second with our very good friends at She Runs Cardiff. We were playing cat and mouse in second and third, and so I think we're going to end up second. So a brilliant effort by two local groups getting, you know, doing something fantastic with their members, getting together and sharing some miles, clocking up some miles, and just being engaged during a very difficult time. And these are just some of the things that we've done throughout the lockdown period. So quickly on, because I know I've spoken for 55 minutes now, and I need to wrap this up. But my take homes are: be more than the sport. That's been a big thing for me, is understanding that you need to do more than just the sport. Nurture all aspects of the runner. It's everything about them that you need to be developing, not just their running ability. Create variety, mix it up a bit, give them something different, and that will keep them engaged. Engage with the members, speak to them, let them be involved in the process of developing the club. Let it be an evolutionary thing that everybody's involved with. Everybody will be happy about the decisions that are made then, and you'll move forward positively. And for me, big thing, just be proud of every runner's achievements. It doesn't matter who they are, what they've done, what their ability is. Be proud of that and celebrate it vocally. Shout it from the rooftops. Whatever they've done, be proud of it, and they will remain engaged if you do that. So that's our story, guys, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And on to some questions if we've got any, Chris, or if we've got any time for them.
No, we've always got time, Chris. Thank you. Absolutely amazing story there of just how much the club has the club has grown, and never short of some passion. That's what I always say. Great story. Going from 12 members to over 370. You must be extremely proud of that, and that journey that the club's been on. And some of those stats that you presented earlier on almost speak for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very proud. Very proud. Team effort.
I like the I like the fact that you've talked about the life cycle of coaches. You had some, you trained some, they left, they come back, they go, and it's not always a straight path to success, is it? There's a lot of learning that's done on the way. What would your top tip be to any club that's looking at growing? And we know a number of clubs are growing quite rapidly. What did you learn over the last few years of how to do that in a manageable way?
I think you've got to have the right team around you. You've got to build that as well. You've got as the membership grows, you've got to make sure that whoever's managing it also grows and is representative of that membership, and keep those members involved. Like I just said, engaging with those members at all points to understand what they're expecting from that growth. I mean, we've got to realize that we've drawn people in, giving them an impression of what the club is like. We've got to maintain that impression. We can't say, well, now you're in the club, it's very different. You've got to actually, if you've sold it to them on a certain, you've got to deliver on that. And so you've got to keep talking to them, find out what they want, and find ways to keep that going. But you do, as we've discussed many times, you need a big group, you need working groups, you need things like that to actually, sort of handle these things in order to understand what you need to do. You can't manage it with a small team.
I think it's important, that one, the one that you touched on earlier, and probably a key take home for me for any clubs listening in is that the importance of surveying your members. And you touched on it earlier. You're a members club, so why not survey the members? Why not get their opinions and the way that they'd like to see the club moving forward? And I know some of the most successful clubs do that on a regular basis, and we know that. Yeah. Other clubs not so much. So it's more committee focused, committee led. But I think it's a really important take home that you're a members organisation, and you should be engaging as much as possible. Has there been any member suggestions that you perhaps haven't taken forward, or anyone come up with some wacky ideas?
Ooh. That's a difficult one. The trouble is my mind is not what it used to be, Chris, and things sort of kind of get full. I mean, certainly at the moment in lockdown, everything's full of that. So I can't think of any off the top of my head that we've thought, no, that's never going to work. Because to be fair, I mean, you've seen what we've done. I mean, some of the stuff we've done is probably considered to be a bit crackers, and so I think that, I'd like to think that if somebody comes, so people have messaged me and said, can we do this? And you think, well, why not? Why don't we have a go? Why don't we just sort of bandy that around and see if it can be worked into an idea that might be able to move forward? Because it could just be the next big thing, wacky ideas can sometimes be fantastic.
And I always think it's all right to try stuff that doesn't work. If you never try it, you're never going to know, because I'm sure not everything that the club has done has been hugely successful, and there's been bumps along the way. So it's the importance of.
That's what I said at the beginning. We've made mistakes. We've definitely made mistakes. And sometimes I've sat there and shook my head and thought, no, that was a bum steer. But you learn from that, and you've got to do that. I mean, that's life, and I think that you do learn. You can cite that then in the future if somebody comes back with something similar and say, look, we tried that, it just didn't work, But I think sometimes you just got to go with things and give them a shot.
True. Just to answer a couple of questions that have come in. Got one here, says, amazing presentation. Thanks, Chris. Where do you find the energy and enthusiasm year after year? I mean, that is a good question. How do you keep it going?
I don't know. I mean, like I said earlier, it's for me. If that's a question for me personally, like I said earlier, I get a lot from it. I get a lot from going along to a Zero to Hero session. I remember what I was like back when I first started, and seeing that magic, I think for me, that's what spurs me on to stand on the outside and watch these things happen. I mean, it's not just an amazing experience for everyone else, but it's amazing for me. Things like Snowdonia, standing there, proud as punch, watching all this go on around you, watching the team work together, the people support each other, hobbling over the line with arms around each other and things like that. That's what keeps me going. That's what gives me the passion, is just seeing other people doing amazing things. And you know, that's a real sort of, and running of course, like, but you know, but almost usurps the running. That it really is. It's very proud to be in a position like this, and facilitating people doing amazing things that they never had any idea that they could do. I think that's the magic.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the importance of social media as well, and the way the club communicates. Do you think that contributes to that sense of community and the sense of, you know, people are out running, they're sharing it? I like that. I like that. Selfies with a smile. I'm sure most people are smiling during their selfies, but there's a couple of disgruntled faces having tackled some hills.
But also, yeah, but it shares the hardship as well. You know, when they've had a tough run, by encouraging it, by saying that this is something we do, this is part of our process, encourages them to do that, and then they feel that they can go out and they don't shrink back home. They possibly stay there, you know, at the end of the run and take a picture of a face that just says it all and says, that was horrible, I hated that. And they then get the reassurance and the support from the community saying, come on now, you know, you've got this, you know, it's fine, you know, send me a message later, we'll have a chat. And, you know, you by encouraging that communication with others, you stop them from isolating, you stop them from shrinking back into a state where they're not engaged. And you know, so you get the good and the bad. So it's not all smiles, but by encouraging smiles, you do encourage that sort of, you know, hey, I want to be a part of that. I want to go out and be that. I want to do that. I want to run like that. And I want to share my selfies, because then everybody else will like my post. And you know, and sort of, it's like that sort of, you know, it's almost like if you're at a training session, we always say, well done, you know, as everybody comes in, everybody's cheered, even if it's just loops of an effort session. Everybody, well done, guys, you're doing great. You know, it's that same thing on social media.
Absolutely. Conscious of time, so I think we'll look to wrap it up there. We've had a couple of questions come in about Chris was talking about open sessions at OGMORE Phoenix. I think you've done such a good job of selling it, Chris. You might have a few new members or visiting members over the coming weeks. So if I can, yeah, I'll ask those people that are asking questions about the club's open sessions to contact Chris directly on that. His email's on the screen, and as well as the other social media elements. So I'll let you field those questions directly, Chris, about how people can get involved. But first of all, thank you very much for your time, everybody who's attended this evening. It's amazing that you're able to join us, and as Chris has said, we're rolling out this series, and it's been massively popular. But I think the main thanks has to go to you, Chris, for all your hard work, dedication, and the passion that you're putting into the club, and for all of your time this evening. So on behalf of everyone at Welsh Legs, a massive thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Take care, everybody. And the video will be shared in the coming days. We'll put it onto the Welsh Legs YouTube channel. So if you haven't visited that, do pick that up in the coming days. There's plenty of great content on there. So we'll share the recording of this webinar in the coming days. Chris, thanks very much. Go have a relax, rest up. Back to some running tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely. Okay.